So our first question today is a what if from Poncho 570. He says, a game of what if. What if Julian Fleming and Nolan Rucci came to Penn State from the get-go? Where would they be in their development as players? What would be the effects of the players currently or no longer on the roster? Or generally, what do you think of this situation if both of those five-star players from Pennsylvania had chosen the Nittany Lions originally instead of going elsewhere? Nate, a lot of different ways to go with this. What jumps to your mind initially?
That's tough. That is tough. I think it is. Well, first of all, they play different positions, so that's your first challenge. Is Nolan Rucci beating out Caden Wallace or Olu Fashanu either of the past 3 years? No. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like T. Frank,
No.
I don't.
No.
No. So,
I think that it would have the biggest difference on this year specifically, where you have Caden Wallace. Oh, here's how I would phrase this. Caden Wallace, we had the conversation about him as a guy who had all the talent in the world, but seemed like he needed to be pushed a little bit. And when Drew Shelton came along, finally his last year, he put it all together and had a really good year as a tackle. If you've got Nolan Rucci from the class of 2021, does that change the trajectory of Caden Wallace? And then secondarily, I guess the thing I would say with Rucci is you would feel very different about this year, 2024, if Nolan Rucci had been in the program for as long as he has and would be, I think, a more comfortable step into the role as opposed to, I don't think we say this enough, Anthony Donko is a redshirt freshman who they are expecting to step in and man a tackle position and is on trajectory to be the best offensive lineman on the team from a production standpoint with his talent and what the curve looks like on his development. That is still an absolute speculation. So if you had Rucci, you might have a different battle and you might have more of that ascension. We also might not have the conversation about Drew Shelton where everyone kind of is looking with side eyes at Drew Shelton of, okay, there's another wild card on the team. Did Drew Shelton have to play initially as a freshman? Did he have to play last year while injured? These are the conversations, I guess, from a depth perspective. It's all about depth. It's not necessarily about changing the starting lineup to me. I think it's more about what is the effect of depth at tackle on Penn State's roster because Nate, they haven't had depth ever at that position.
Yep. No, I agree. He's also a little bit different from. I see Fleming as to Penn State's benefit. I mean, certainly it hasn't been to Penn State's benefit that they haven't had some of what he delivers. Right? They very much could have used more enthusiastic and willing blocking receivers over the past couple of years, right? Like that would have made, specifically last year, that would have been very big for Penn State because that was at times one of the big issues that they had in the running game.
Yeah.
I think that the fifth year element brings a desperation is the wrong word, but urgency for sure.
Yeah.
When the clock runs out and he has not, I feel like we've had this conversation where I'm subtly tempering expectations for him.
Yeah.
And a lot of Penn State fans who haven't been really paying attention to his career are remembering 5 stars and he's coming to Penn State and he was of course he was buried at Ohio State. You're dealing with 2 top 10 picks, right? On among those receivers.
3.
And he still started. But I think there's no way that anyone would say, based on what his expectations were coming out of high school, that his career has gone as planned. That's why he's at Penn State this year.
Yep.
Is to maximize this, to have, again, just like I was talking about Omari, to have this open opportunity and to step through it and produce the types of numbers to stay healthy, to do all of the things that haven't really happened for him with consistency through his career at Ohio State. He gets that chance now, and it's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
So if that's the guy he wants to be, if that's the guy he can become,
yeah,
we'll do it.
To me, the question is, Nate, do you believe in fate and predestination when it comes to Nolan Rucci? And I say that in a way to make you laugh, but that's the question. Do you believe that his injuries were predestined? Because that's the conversation with Nolan Rucci, or excuse me, with Julian Fleming, because those have had a serious effect on his abilities, his physical abilities, from what I understand. Not that he was ever going to be a superstar speed receiver, but if you are trying to overcome that and you lose that incrementally over time, then you're in a real pickle. So if he came to Penn State originally with the strength and conditioning program, would fate have smiled more kindly on him? And I think that is something that nobody knows. Nobody can know that. If there's a higher power, that's the being that understands that. Outside of that, we're all guessing. But yeah, I think that there would be conversations about leadership and maturity, but then how much leadership and maturity does he gain at Penn State, and how much did he learn at Ohio State? Like, those are some of the things we can't know.
And it's the same Caden Wallace conversation to a certain extent, is how would things have been? Again, I mean, you can see this line of demarcation post Parker Washington.
Yeah.
That okay, Parker was there and Mitch Tinsley, and after that, there was a vacuum that Keandre was expected to step into, and in some ways did. But I mean, look, like Keandre still had over 50 catches last year.
He had 85 targets.
Yeah, like I just keep thinking that people are, maybe underplaying what the impact is there. The productivity that he had. He was productive.
And he could have been more productive if there had been better play in certain positions from the first-year starting quarterback.
Yeah.
There also could have been better play from him in a bunch of other situations. So, Nate, that is going to be a conversation and a show that we could do some other time when discussing the merits of his 85 targets and however many catches he got last year.